get the cameras. Ah, okay. Make sure my mic's unmuted. Yes, yes. Hello, everybody. Hello. Happy Thursday. Happy Christmas Eve.
God, don't remind me that literally the entire year has passed us by already.
Wait, are you telling me we're going into 2022? I'm just like processing 2020.
Processing, it's still happening to me.
Happy Christmas Eve, everyone. Thank you, Mark. Did Mark mention something about the words in the chat?
I have not seen
Oh,
it.
he
Yep,
did.
but the first thing. First thing.
Mark, I'm supposed to keep the cussing to a minimum on this show. Well, welcome in, folks. Welcome to Writer's Block, where we build worlds with words, and it's completely improv. And we have two lovely guests today. We have Kat Lingun. Kat, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Kat. I am the host king of the podcast Sword of Symphonies, where my good, cool friends playtest my game. We won awards. It's rad. I am also going to be the choir master because I can't ever just call myself the GM of Roar to Heaven, which is funding on Kickstarter right now. It is a big, splashy Evangelion and Symphogear inspired anime nonsense romp.
It looks really cool.
One of those last sets of words. Perfect. That's if there was a checklist.
Big sci-fi dork Omni is very hype about that. I've been keeping up with the project and been trying to promote it when I can.
And thank you so much for that.
Of course, I got a lot of great people like Kendo recommending it to me, so I'm more than happy to boost it. Megs, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
G'day, Megs, otherwise known as Megan. I'm a tabletop role-playing gamer as well as a GM. Did a Bachelor of Games Design way back when, and while not directly working in games presently, very much enjoy jumping into all things tabletop role-playing. Really looking forward to having a look at how we build worlds with everything we've got here.
Heck yeah, we're really happy to have you on. That's really cool to hear that you have a you said a bachelor in game design. Is that what you said?
Yep, bachelor in game design. Worked in the AAA games industry. Probably not what you thought it would be, but you know what? There's an experience.
I mean, that's still really cool. I mean, like the only degree I have is a culinary degree. That doesn't help me on this show at all.
Oh yeah, no, dude, and even that's better than my general AA, basically made as a discount like coupon for when I go somewhere to get a job.
Hey, you have a general. That's better than most people, to be quite fair.
Yeah.
I went to a Mystic college.
That sounds
that's
badass.
cool.
Like, that sounds
actually,
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's a resume just to make the boss ask you, what is a Mystic College? And go, I'm glad you asked. And
Exactly.
Yeah, you heard of the College of Winterhold? Yeah, kind of the same thing.
If you ask, I have to kill you.
Omni, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, even though you do it every single episode, and I make you do it every single episode?
Oh, well, that's because you love me, Red, and I appreciate it. Hey, everyone. I am the last Omnitech, your favorite robot American, and I am working on my tabletop role-playing game 15 years running, coming on to the last leg of development, Legacy tabletop role-playing game system. Legacy Storytelling in the World of Tomorrow. You guys probably see me all over the Twitterverse posting about that, so you can find me at hashtag LegacyTTRPG. And also working now as a co-host on this show and Chip Off the Block, which we do Wednesdays in the same time slot, which is the follow-up of this show. And it has been a blast, generally speaking. Plus also being on DMDM as a frequent player on the Saturday slot. So yeah, that's me.
Absolutely, and folks, I hope I don't need to introduce myself to you. I am Red at VA Redemption on Twitter. I'm a voice actor. It's so cool, right? It'd be cool if I got work. So I'm doing this instead. If you like the sound of my voice, you can check me out on Coffee. Maybe I do really cheap commissions, so if you need a cool ad for your stuff, I'm your man. I'm also a writer, if that isn't apparent by the name of this show. And hopefully, if I get the nerve to do it, I'll post my beta read of my first novel on Twitter at some point.
Yes.
Not soon. I'm not confident right now. It needs some serious editing, but I am very happy to have all these guests on each and every week, and Kat, Megs, I really appreciate you two reaching out to me to be on the show. I'm more than happy to have new and exciting guests every single week, and folks in the audience, that could be you. Some of you have already been
Some of you, it's already been you, and it's been great. I hope it better be.
Some of
5-star
you-
review.
Somebody clip that. Some of you, it's already been you. That sounds like a bootleg ad. Okay. So
I will also be patrolling the chat to hang out with you guys. So if you're wondering who that handsome devil is popping in and out, that will be me.
you do post some good selfies. Okay. So this is the part of the show. This is the first hour of the show, where we drop a bunch of words. We have a crap load of words. Each of us has 3 words, and none of us know what they are. I don't even know what they are. I don't even know what my own are yet. So we're gonna figure that
God,
out.
Red. You took the Dark Souls route for this. No one asked you to do this, but you did that.
I did it. I'm challenging myself. By challenging myself, I mean I forgot on top of many other things. Kat, let's hear your first word.
My first word. Okay, so I came up with all of my words before I read the document, and I stand by it.
That's
My
fine.
first word is woods.
Woods. That's actually a really good word because we haven't really discussed nature in this world yet, so that could be an interesting prompt. Like I said, we're gonna go around in a circle or a sort of like clockwise rectangle in this regard. Meg, would you like to tell us your first word?
Alright. My first word is oath.
Oath.
Ooh.
That's a good
like
one.
that.
Oh. Omni.
All right. Oh, man. Following those two, which one do I choose? I'm going to go with conduit.
Conduit. Okay. Well, I mean, you picked that word because you know very well that you can tie that to a lot of stuff we've already talked
Oh,
about.
yes, definitely a little motive behind that one.
Oh,
Mhm.
he's biased.
Tiny bits.
Let's see.
What about you, Red? What are you pulling out of the ether for us first?
I think I am going to go with volume. That is a word I keep thinking about.
Ooh.
I like that. That can go a lot of ways.
Kat, your second word, please.
Tiny.
Tiny. I think. Wait, hold on. Didn't we have large as one of our words on the last? Oh,
Maybe?
not planned. Yeah, literally last episode we had the word large.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, we didn't even get to that one.
That's it. We'll get to it like midnight stream. I don't know.
Yeah, you guys
Now
will
it's-
print that down.
It's time to talk about the size of stuff.
That's not a bad thing. There are no wrong answers. Free association. The worst thing we'll do is slightly judge you, and you have every right to do it back to us.
The most difficult word we've had so far is diagonal. So like, I mean like, what do you do with that? I'm glad Aaron had an idea. Meg, what's your second word?
Secret.
Secret. That could be
Love that.
Oh. See, that's such a simple word, but it inspires so many different trains of thought. So that's what I like. I like it, that kind of word. Speaking of trains, anyway, sorry, go Omni. What's your second word?
All right, I'm gonna go with shelter.
Shelter.
Hmm.
Now, are we thinking like a Fallout shelter, or are we thinking like Gimme Shelter by the Stones?
I was thinking shelter, like as in home, or like somewhere to rest. Specifically, we really haven't talked too much about the nature of the cities. We talked about like their abstract structure of nation state or like communities. We never really got into like how do people actually live in post-apocalypse magic world. I observed the word. I hope you know. I'm gonna put a check down every time I don't give in to my darker side.
This
That's
is
2 so far.
this is very fun for a guest because we were given a rundown of words we're not supposed to say.
It's-
But this is the most secret of the words we're not supposed to say.
Exactly.
It's the word that must not be named. Its existence will corrupt the stream.
The 5-year-old in me needs to know it and yell it.
Honestly, I think that word is what messed up my camera in the first place because everything's fine now. So don't ever say it again. I think we're fine. We're in the clear. I was talking about trains of thought, so my word is locomotive.
Nice. Ooh.
Secret locomotive.
Tiny train. I just thought
Is it
of-
wrong to say I want to build a tiny house and suddenly a lot of these words are looking very, very appealing to me?
You know the gnomes from The Witcher, and they're like this tall. They're like an inch tall. That's all I can think of is like tiny
Babies.
trains for like. God, my brain is corrupted. Cat, what's your last word?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, my brand is wholesome. But my final word is brave.
Brave.
Nice.
I immediately think of the movie. I know that's
Yeah.
like, and Braveheart is another one I think of, which is kind of related.
Ooh.
But
I think of the trailer for the movie. That was a really good trailer.
the movie not so much.
The movie was fine.
That was
It
okay.
wasn't the trailer.
Megan, what is your last word?
Alliance.
Alliance.
Ooh.
I love that.
Omni, your next word better not be horde. Let's.
It isn't. Don't worry. We're good. Actually, it's soldier.
Soldier. I'm not a young man anymore. I keep making Blizzard references. I don't support Blizzard in any way right now. I'm sorry.
You're allowed to have a background in a thing you don't like and have it influence your life positively, and occasionally quote it for the lulz. You're good.
That's fair. My last word. I'm looking through my thesaurus, which is actually a manual for my motherboard. Let's see here. I can't have too many train theme things. I already have a train word. Not gonna. Give me a cool word, please, oh please. Don't look at me.
Shake your magic 8-ball. Something powers out.
Function. Sure, let's go with that one.
Do it.
Okay.
Like I said, man, you took the Dark Souls route of this one, man. Like, no one asked you to come here playing it this hard.
I'm going down a darkened path. So from here, we're gonna sort of round these down because we have 12 words. That's a lot of words. We can't cover that in an hour. Believe me, Omni exists. So we're going to
Ouch, but accurate.
we're gonna go around and pick 2 words that we like. So Kat, are any of these words sticking out to you? And also, don't feel obligated to pick somebody else's word. You can pick your own word because if you really have an idea for that, by all means.
Okay, so I pick 2 words.
Yes.
I can't just reiterate gasp tiny secret locomotive.
As much as I love the idea of just, it's not 3 separate prompts. It's we staple them together and they are now one prompt of the tiny secret locomotive.
It's an
Tiny
improv
secret
show.
Locomotive. Gosh. I think I want to go with volume and shelter.
Volume and shelter.
Because
Okay.
the project I'm working on right now, Roar to Heaven, and the game that I made that we're going to be playing is very music themed. So volume is speaking to me in like a noise sense right now that I'm really feeling.
I like that. I like that.
When I think volume, I think Noise Marines from 40K, but I'm a nerd, so.
No, I feel you too.
Just those badass.
Things are getting loud now, brother.
glam rock, brother. Megan, which of these 2 words stand out to you the most?
Conduit and secret.
Conduit and secret. Okay, Okay, that's the wrong button. I use Google Docs frequently. I literally wrote an entire book in Google Docs. Okay. Conduit and secret. See, conduit can be any number of things. Omni, I'm sure when he said that word, he literally just had like all of these different trains of thought, stuff that we've already talked about. Omni, I'm going to challenge you with conduit when we get around to that word, if we get around to that word tonight, to not use anything that we have existing already, because I know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to default to dust bunnies. You're going to want to talk about dust bunnies, but let's come up with something completely new.
Okay, I'm down with that. I like that.
If you don't, it's your fingers.
I like my fingers though, and I draw and write with these fingers. Please, no, sir. Can I have more? Let's see.
Please, sir,
so,
may I have another finger? Pick 2.
You said we had to keep it clean.
As long as the censors can't point to a specific one of the 7 words.
I'll just clip the part where I was talking about fingers.
Yeah, we're good. Threats of violence from co-host to host, those are legitly fine. We're good. We know each other well enough. Okay. So let's see. This is interesting. I actually am gonna go with Oath and Alliance. I really like both those words.
Oh,
And they represent things we
Yeah.
haven't really much talked about in this setting, which is the geopolitics of our giant magically cratered death world that we have made. Super
yeah.
psyched about that.
And the last two words I'm going to pick are, I think locomotive and brave, just because I'm a little biased.
That's fair.
Now I'm imagining like a brave Scottish train. That sounds really cool. All right, so now that we have these words, our wonderful guests, we don't have to go down them in order. Don't mind me for just a second. I'm taking the words that we're not getting to, and I'm going to put them in our Wednesday notes. Where are the Wednesday notes? I have no idea. We're going to put them here. So let's see.
Separate them out, partition them.
I'm going to move episode 3 down to a new page. It's a little bit cleaner looking. So,
Thank you.
whoever would like to start, please, I'm passing the ball to you. You can pick any of these words that you would like to start with. If you have immediate thoughts when you look at them, go ahead.
Oh. So they don't have to be the ones we picked just now.
No? Oh yeah, they had to be the ones we picked out of the list that we picked.
Yeah,
Yes.
But
out
not
of
the
this-
ones I picked.
Yes.
They could, yeah, well, they could be any of them. If you want, if
Okay.
one of the words that you picked, if you have like a train of thought already going, leaving the station, please.
Mm,
You know what? Sure, let's go.
Let's go.
All right.
yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. So secret. So as I understand it, dust contributes to a lot of the magic that occurs in this world. But has anyone broken down what it is on a molecular level?
Like scientifically speaking, probably not. It's
Okay.
The way I think of dust is that it's one of those substances. It's like a Ami and I were talking about it yesterday. We were talking about it like a miracle substance, like when baking soda was first invented. Everybody's just like, oh, it can clean your clothes. You can make bread and cookies with it. Dust is kind of like that, and nobody questions it. So to have somebody question it and sort of break it down to its finer components, that could be interesting because you could definitely
Cool.
yield some different
Yeah.
effects.
It has been
Yeah.
phlebtonium thus far. We are fine with removing some of the phleb.
Are you talking about flubber? That
It's an old sci-fi trope of when you need a thing, you either and it doesn't make scientific sense, or it makes scientific sense, but it is way above your pay grade to even begin to imagine. You either call it unobtainium or you call it phlebtonium. Unobtainium is the real scientific term for a thing that's too good to be true that we need, like a room temperature superconductor. And phlebtonium is the goofy word you use when you're writing. You're like, I just need something that is basically magic, but I can put in a sci-fi setting. Run with it. So.
Right. Okay. All right. So it hasn't been broken down on a molecular level. So I guess tying to secret, giving it some science. I would like to suggest, perhaps, that it's an alien molecule that links a neural network of sentient beings. The more people that consume it, the more people that interact with it, the larger that neural network becomes. But it all links back to this alien race. Nobody knows that it does, it's a secret, but it's giving them short-term power for long-term connectivity.
I like that.
That gives me
I
like that reminds me of fungus, just like this giant network that you can't really see and you can't really fathom it because obviously we'd have to dig it up to see it. So that's a really interesting thing because like I think what you're suggesting is like a sort of like a biological like communications network.
Yep, absolutely.
That is-
Absolutely.
yeah,
That is so cool.
a semi-magical mycelial network for minds and souls. I like that a lot.
It's
Yes.
so weird. Oh man, that's so cool. Oh.
We actually could tie that pretty evenly into the old lore too. The whole idea of the setting is that magic comes from literally the stars. That's why the setting is on the edge of stars.
Mhm.
This could literally be a thing gifted by the stars. Kind of a counterpoint to the magic that's directly gifted to individuals. Sort of a Okay, we give this to a couple people, but this we just sort of throw everywhere.
I'm also
With
getting
the
like Borderlands vibes from this. You know, like you're sort of like seeking
Mhm.
out the. Nobody knows what's inside of the vaults. They just know that there's going to be cool stuff inside the vault, right? And that's going to be worth a lot of money. So
Yeah.
like they're like people gather this dust because they know what it does, and then they think they know what it does. But in reality, they're sort of like sabotaging themselves and giving all of this information to people that they don't even know exist. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
political.
Really,
Yeah, that's
really,
political.
really down for that. Really
I
down
had-
for that.
Actually,
Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I had a thought enter my brain.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow,
Tell us about it.
cool.
Tell us about it. Let's go.
Let that out. Let that
One
out.
of the words I was really amped to think about was volume.
Yeah.
And I would like very much if maybe through technology or through being in the right place at the right time, you can actually hear this neural network.
Oh, I love that.
That's creepy.
Like it produces like an audible whisper of people, like
Yes.
of minds in Congress. Maybe like
Ah,
the closer you are to the stars, the louder it is.
So
There are some people who have very sensitive hearing and can even hear it down at like sea level.
that's awesome. And actually, that segues really well with something that got dropped in chat by Bon and Gamers Ledge. They both were like, "So what if it's like like sort of like the network of connection that happens like some of the Resident Evil games, or like where we have a thing where if you consume enough dust, you become a null, and that basically turns you into anti-magic, not a magic semiconductor where you kind of dampen it, but a magic vacuum where it's a magical black hole. But when that happens, usually makes you sort of tranquil. You lose yourself and you become very suggestible and very much Dragon Age in that sense. And the suggestion that was made was maybe that's why. Because it's not that they become, simple-minded or robbed of individuality, it's that their individuality literally becomes part of that network. And it's no longer present in you. It's that you are now part of this massive, overarching network that is largely passive because it just doesn't understand the scope of what it's interacting with.
So,
Oh.
so we're making sort of a not a hive mind in the traditional sense, but like that would also explain the arcane lobotomies with dust. People literally like uplinking their consciousness to these networks. So they just
To
kind
the
of
cloud.
become-
Literally the cloud.
uploading.
Now I have this very beautiful and wholesome and haunting story about a person with a loved one who ends up becoming a null, and maybe they're somewhere very high, close to the stars, and they can, in this whisper of the dust, hear their loved one again.
Oh,
Love
chills.
that.
Oh,
I love that.
that's
For the
so
record,
It's like,
I'm just going to extend, as an invite to anybody on the show, and I think we can safely do this for everyone. This is group collaborative. Everyone's involved.
Yeah.
That's you folks in chat, you folks here as guests, us. If you want to do something with this setting, you want to make a short story or, do whatever. Tag us on Twitter or whatever. I would be hyped to see whatever happens.
Yeah,
if you
that-
want to write that story, do that. That sounds awesome.
ML and Hall had an idea for a short story, and after the holidays, I'm gonna get in contact with him because he had a really cool idea for a story. But that's beside the point. God, that's so haunting. Like just somebody, the entire story and like the climax is like they finally get to hear the words of their loved one, but it's just like not the same, so they just go back because you know that. Oh, that's sad as hell, man.
Perfect.
Oh.
We've had a lot of grim, dark, gritty, kind of survivally rough and tumble stuff, but this is the kind of grim dark that hits you in your feet.
Yeah,
That's
the
sad.
real shit.
You can make a war game out of crazy, dangerous magic and folks who make entire armies of nulls, but you can't make a war game out of these sads, and I love that.
It's sad.
So good.
beautiful. Beautiful. Actually,
No, go on.
Yes.
Kat, off the back of that volume, that idea that there are certain people that can hear this neural network and they can hear like these bits and pieces. Do you think that it over time would have some kind of effect on them, perhaps making it their sole focus? Like the more that they try to listen to this, if they have a particular sensitivity to it, the more that they seek it out, the more that they jump from star to star, the more that they cease to hear anything else.
Hmm. I suppose that depends on what the network talks to itself about.
Yeah. Oh god, what if it's just the cosmic equivalent of like my butt itches? Like, you know, literally like banal thoughts. I don't mean that.
None of us have butts anymore. We're consciousnesses in the dust.
My metaphorical butt itches.
Exactly.
It's philosophical.
The abstract concept of my rear, in fact, itches, sir.
And the
but,
heart
like-
never scratching it.
But like, the idea though, literally, like maybe. So I'm getting Call of Cthulhu thoughts here of like taking the dark and like making it horrifying. Yeah, the idea of the network itself is like the combination of everyone, but I'm almost like Call of Cthulhu, or like the cluster from Steven Universe, where it's like it's not awake yet, like it's dreams, it's whispers because there's no conscious mind quite there yet, and who knows if one day all the dust everywhere, the dust network just wakes up one day, and some terrifying cosmic eye to every person who uses dust opens, and suddenly a million people's mouths open and speak simultaneously across a planet.
You
Like
know,
that would be a horrifying endgame scenario that we're probably not going to get to, but I'd love that idea.
I don't know why, but for some reason, for some reason at all, I thought of Nausicaa Valley of the Wind. I don't know why, but I was thinking of like this combined conscious making like a super being, like it's just the movie's like 30 years old. If you haven't seen it, go watch
Yeah,
it. Like,
we're fine
I'll
with this.
spoil whatever the hell I want on this show. It's my show, my rules. So they're like this giant meat man at the. That's a great way to put it. There's a giant like weird humanoid type thing, and I wonder if it's like, I wonder if these like combined consciousnesses are like, this could just be a plot point, you know, like the different consciousnesses could be doing different things or like trying to achieve different things, in the same way that like humans have natural leaders amongst ourselves that feel like the urge and they feel compelled to sort of like lead people. I wonder if these consciousnesses, is there a plural for that other than that? Because that sounds terrible.
Consciousnesses? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure. I wonder if they're like, there's different clusters of them that are plotting different things. So one of them could be trying to build a big meat man from Nausicaa, while another one could literally just be trying to make itself a computer. Like,
Like, I know for a fact I'm the only one. I'm the only one who's thinking that this is actually a very wonderful and beautiful thing. Because if we're talking about this world that is full of inequality and full of exploitation and full of struggle and hardship, it's hard for me to imagine an aggregate sentience of human beings who have survived such a world as being anything but just like here to fix it.
I mean, that's a good point, because like this world is like full of suffering. So why would there be suffering in a neural network where everybody just kind of becomes one? That's Cowboy Bebop. You see that?
Maybe
episode?
when the dust wakes up, it's gonna try to rescue people.
Yeah, I mean
That's possible,
a
yeah.
lot of different ideas. You know, they don't need to be evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the record, like, it couldn't be very much we don't know.
We got
Like,
no
we-
clue.
No,
Yeah, we could literally leave it open to interpretation. One person thinks it's a positive force, another person thinks that basically it's just human instrumentality turning people into orange jello pools. Like, everyone has their opinion. And they're all equally valid. And, you know, I'm not going to apologize for spoiling Evangelion, a show almost as old as I am, to everyone out
How
there.
could you?
How could I? Okay, what it really is sentient tang, but I'm pretty sure that's even more policed as a thing than Jello is. So, but yeah.
that's fair. So the idea that we've had is just like, this stuff could wake up, but we don't know what it could do if it does wake up. So it's kind of like the 5 minutes to midnight scenario. Like if it does wake up, something really bad could happen. If it does wake up, maybe that's what caused the apocalyptic event that ended the old world in the first place. We don't know. Just another theory on the. I need to like put, you know, those like really creepy like walls of conspiracy theorists where they have like a bunch of notepads and thumbtacks and strings tying them together. I need to put that on my wall, but with like AS.
Oh my god.
I mean, that'd probably be a reality. There's probably people that spend their entire lives trying to figure out what the hell caused the apocalypse in the first place, and the dust waking up could have very well been, you know, a way that the world ended.
Yeah. One of many. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's that old line of why choose one backstory? I prefer my backstory with multiple choice, as the Joker said. Like, same thing. Why choose one apocalypse? What's better than one apocalypse? Multiple, all at the same time.
Oh.
Because that is how it goes, right? Like, a system fails, it's not one thing that makes it fail. It's a cascade. Like, we're not worried about the environment getting overly warm on the planet solely because we're going to get a little toasty. We're worried about it because it's going to basically tip over every other domino on planet Earth.
Yeah.
So, same thing. Like, it could be one of many contributing terrible factors or good factors.
Hmm.
Global warming, omnipolitical.
God,
Wow.
how dare I?
It's happening.
Daring!
It's happening. I'm you're still denying it. Open your eyes. But
I'm ascending.
You're ascending. You're becoming stronger. So we've
Welcome
covered.
to the network.
Yes.
Welcome to the Fungus Network.
We are mushroom.
I'm a portobello. So we've got
Which next human become mushroom?
return to dirt.
Return to mushroom.
We've got
Mushrooms
volume.
eternal.
We've got volume and secret. I think we did a pretty good job combining those two. So good job. I really like it when we can combine two words into one big old prompt, because that's cool. Because that just created an entire new story dimension. And honestly, what we're doing here is just creating story hooks for this world, and also just laying down like very, very. We're still doing broad strokes when it comes to world building. Because I don't know why I would invite guests on to build nations. Because I'm going to be completely honest, that is the most boring part of world building. Is the intrinsic data that you must put behind stuff like, oh, the population is 60,000. Who cares what the frickin' population is? It's all about like what's going on in this place. Well, I mean,
There's a reason why Star Wars doesn't have accurate numbers to describe the shapes of their
Yeah.
ships. Like, even when they release the technical manuals, and they will release one a year later, and the numbers will be vastly different. And you're like, oh, that's like an order of magnitude difference. One of these is like the size of a yacht. The other one is the size of a continent. And you've absolutely not consulted each other because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just gloss over that stuff half the time. Or forget it.
So for our next word, what are we thinking?
Oh, man.
Or words? I mean,
Yeah.
we tied volume into secret. And that was very well done.
I'm gonna actually, so I'm gonna tie something in here. This is to secret and oath, and I'm gonna slap alliance into there too, because why not? So this is actually something that was brought up in chat, and I just put it as a comment there. Which is this is by Gamers Ledge, by the way. This suggestion, and it was too good not to touch on. So the second we start talking about mycelial style sharing of knowledge and data across a plane, because everyone's tied to dust intrinsically, and somehow it opens up your mind to this network, whether it's like peripherally and you don't really realize it beyond maybe whispers or something when you're a very low level dust user, or if you're a null and you've surrendered your mind utterly to this alien influence, or you're the rare null that maybe represents a node in it. The idea of being able to do that means that information can travel over that distance. He suggested the idea that you could use nulls or dust users as a form of spying or reconnaissance. I am taking it a little further with the idea also, I might even be able to slap Conduit into this just to have fun with it. You might be able to use it as a method of long-distance communication between individuals, legitimate communication, not just like spycraft. What do you see? Oh, I see myself in a room many, many miles away. What's in the room? Or literally, in this case, you could use people like living telephones in that respect.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're suggesting that this network can be channeled by specific people. It's probably a very elite service, because I doubt that most people will be able to find their way through a labyrinth of sort of like fungal-like patterns. But you're saying that these people can sometimes communicate across long distances. That's...
Yeah, like as a possibility. I think Again, every one of my ideas, big asterisk next to it, does not mean it's common, does not mean that it's frequently usable. It could literally be the hallmark of a singular nation, or a singular nation state, where they're like, yeah, this is our edge. Our edge is we figured out how to utilize nulls or acquire of nulls in order to effectively communicate over longer distances. Like, maybe that's how they send envoys out. They don't even send out diplomatic parties on horseback or whatever they would use, or wagon. Just one day, suddenly, some of the nulls in your court turn around, they begin speaking to you in someone else's voice, and you're like, the heck is that? They're like, oh yes, we're the representatives of Null Area, and we need to talk to you about something. Don't worry, we'll give your nulls back when we're done, but this is a power flex on you. Just to
I
let you
have
know.
an idea.
Let's hear
Run
it.
with it.
I have a thought in my awful little brain. One of the words that we have upon our list here is oath.
Yeah.
Maybe you can only use this network to transmit information if it lets you.
Yes,
Ooh.
I love
Which
that.
means you
I
need to
love
offer it something it wants. And I like the idea
Yes.
of there being like a nation or even like a secret society that takes an oath to do something for this network, and in exchange, the network freely offers it information.
That is
Yes.
I love that.
perfect. That ties back into the theme of this world, is just you have to give something in order to get something. So even
Yes.
communication comes at a very steep price. My first thought
Awesome.
is Magic the Gathering. I'm sorry if people don't get that. But Gruul, not the Gruul.
Not the gruel.
Not the Gruul. It's the
Everyone loves
Gruul.
the but yeah, no.
the Golgari.
Yours off?
The Golgari. So like
Yeah.
they're like composters, right? So like they
Yeah.
like give. So maybe they take like, oh, that's weird. They like kill. They have to kill people or like get bodies to sort of feed it to the network, and that's what kind of appeases them.
You don't even need to kill them.
Don't even
What
need to kill
if-
them. You can just bury them alive and have.
Well, I mean, like, what if the price is you need to make more dust users?
No.
If you want knowledge, you need to give them a soul or a
Give us
life.
more brains.
And yeah, exactly. And like, you have to expand the network, and the only way to do that is to drown someone in dust.
What do we want to call this network? Because we keep referring to it as a network, but I think it's a little bit too like
Yeah.
sci-fi.
Yeah.
It was your idea, Meg. I love.
Yeah, let's do
I'm
it.
just okay. Yeah, it's not that I'm balking from it. It's more a case of naming conventions that we have currently established within the world.
They're all over the
Just
place,
looking
so
at
go
that.
wild.
Okay. all right.
Yeah.
From Latin to
Like-
sort of Spanish-inspired things to Greek. It's...
I mean, you could even go back to like at the very beginning too. Like the idea that we have for, like, again, mages aren't called mages. They're the tethered and the untethered, depending on how dependent on dust they are. We have, as opposed to, you know, people who use dust, they're either dust bunnies or nulls, depending on how entrenched they are in that. We even have like ideas of like bridging and tethering in there too, if you want to tie in a term like that. Or do literally whatever.
Yeah.
Feel free to type if you have an idea too, especially if one of us are talking. If you have an idea, you want to just slap down, go ahead and put down another bullet. And...
Yes.
Alright, so tethering, a whole heap of like rope-esque related items there.
Keep in mind that tethered are like very separate from nulls. Tethered are like
Yeah, yeah.
actual magicians, and nulls are the
Mhm,
opposite.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have this filthy little Tolkien habit of naming everything in Old English.
Oh, how dare. How dare.
How dare! I bite
Gas.
my thumb at ye.
No.
Lord of the Rings references in fantasy. The shame of it. Go on with it.
The furthest I go is using the same language. But the Old English word for mushroom is feldswam.
I love Feldswamp.
That's
Wait,
actually pretty cool.
That sounds
I like
really
that.
close to Flotsam.
There's also metaswam, which is an edible mushroom.
Ooh, I like that one. Metaswarm?
Yeah.
Yeah, like because of the action of ingesting. Like that
Oh.
the metaswarm.
That makes sense,
You are
yeah.
ingesting and have been ingested.
It also kind of like sounds vaguely both like meta and swarm.
Yes. Oh, God, thank you so much. I love it.
That's
Can
great.
we
Yeah.
roll with that?
Thanks,
Yeah,
Tolkien.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That actually works really well with the idea too. Like dust is, in order to use dust, you need to consume it in some way, shape, or form. Like we haven't
Yes.
been specific about it, so like
Yeah.
I've been like, there's probably some person who turns it into a cream and rubs it on their skin. Other people
Yeah.
might use it like injectables or drugs, or just mix it into food. Who knows?
Okay, amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Someone has gamer fuel, but it's just dust in their water, and
Hey, gamers,
so like.
get some G Fuel.
G Fuel, not sponsored. Wish I was.
Not sponsored by G.
But yeah, no, like that actually works with that too. If you need to ingest dust to become part of this network, literally those who've eaten,
Yeah.
could
You
be
eat the
chosen.
mushroom eat you.
Ah, it's like that
Become
pineapple
mushroom.
thing we keep coming back to.
Reject humanity, become
mushroom.
mushroom.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait to be put on a steak with some butter. But
Beautiful.
that's a really interesting thought. See, now, so going on a different train of thought, we have this idea that this is like sort of like almost a fungal-like network. So, is it like spores in the air, or is it actually in the ground? Because dust can be either or, to be quite fair. It's very
Yeah,
old material.
Yeah. I think that it can take any form. I mean, perhaps there are planets that have been impacted by meteors or other items, and
Yeah.
that's how it becomes buried in the ground. Or maybe there's some kind of intergalactic event of some kind. Maybe there's a solar flare or something related, and that will disperse it within the atmosphere.
That's a good
But
thought.
if the intention is that this is coming from an alien species of some kind, then I'm kind of on the fence, and I'd pitch it to the rest of the group. Is it intentional, or is it entirely just these random events happen and that's how it gets spread?
Could be incidental. I mean, do plants intend to spread pollen, or is it just a natural part of their development?
Yeah.
Like, you know, trees bud because it's what their nature calls them to do. It's
Yeah.
not like the trees going like, all right, guys, time to start spreading people around. Like, no, it's just nature.
Rubs the branches together.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, we're not going to have any NC-17 tree content in this stream. You know, and another thought is like, so here's the thing. I've dabbled in this idea once or twice with Legacy. And that's that there are more than one means of communication. Like, all you need is a connection from point A to point B, but it doesn't need to be direct. It can be indirect.
Right.
And the most expressed version of that I've been able to find is the idea of quantum entanglement, which is that you don't even need to be physically connected to something. You just need to be connected, in this case, intrinsically. The idea that you can have two particles that are linked, their states are quantumly linked together. So if one particle is positive, the other particle is negative, and no matter how far apart you pull them, they will always be each other's opposite. So if I take one particle to the edge of creation on one end and the other to the other end, and I make that one particle that's positive negative, the other one will immediately, no matter where it is, become positive. And so technically you could use that if you could ever figure out how to handle that. Particles will occasionally just do that anyway, because physics be weird. You could theoretically make an intergalactic equivalent of Morse code that works anywhere with zero lag time. That might be a way we could explain how the dust network works. Dust
Yeah.
doesn't need a physical connection. It is, in and of itself, an unseparated whole, just sort of broken down physically, but metaphysically, it might be solid. It might be the
Yeah.
embodiment of all magic.
I had this really weird idea.
I like that.
Bear with me. So, like, if it were to be buried underground, it could work in multiple different ways. We don't have to just say, like, it works always underground, or it works above ground, it works in some sort of way. People could have wires running along that literally gather dust so it works, and you can, like, transfer stuff. I keep coming back to this weird thought of, like, sci-fi mushrooms, like literally like man-made mushrooms that sort of serve as like telephone poles almost for these underground networks. So that's like the actual head node for in the same way that fungus works. That like the tops of the mushrooms that we see are literally just nodes. Like they're the tops. They're kind of like the radar that sort of scans things and picks up everything and like gets an idea of what's going on around. So they're just like, okay, more spread more this way. We can spread more this way if we need a new telecommunications route. You know, that sort of thing. And,
What if we make that specific to a nation? Like, you mentioned the Golgari earlier. Like,
Yeah.
that's a very
Yeah.
cultural thing. What if that is a way that, like, one community or nation has gained access to this network, is by making nodes, and they do so through methods of botany. They literally grow mushrooms or, like, plant life infused with dust. And then you can use that as a stable, non-perishing conduit, because, let's be real, mushrooms and plants tend to age a lot better than humans do. So...
yeah, some fungal networks are, I don't know how many hundreds of years old. Like they just essentially
Yeah.
live forever, you know.
Yeah.
Do we want to combine this with the faction that takes its oath to the network?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
be more of like a religious sort of like not religious, but
Oh, I mean, I think a cult, like, you know what? Honestly, I think this setting could use a good old-fashioned cult.
Yeah, we've been talking about it. Like, it's never too early to start your first cult, you know?
We gotta have a cult.
cult
If
of the
we're gonna
Meta
do Outer Space Grimdark, we need at least one cult.
cult of
Yeah.
the Metaswam it is.
I love it. And
Yeah.
I had an awful little thought in my wicked little brain, which is to say that if this network is in the business of absorbing people's consciousnesses and combining them into one large meta consciousness,
Uh-huh.
it's probably been at this for way long, hey? Like for
Oh,
ages,
yeah.
hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
At least
since
as
the
long
old
as-
world, hey?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least as long as, like, there's been dust on this planet, which was that apocalypse, at very least, if not before, with no one noticed.
and it just
Yeah.
got kicked up. It got
Yeah.
kicked
There
up
could
in
be-
the commotion.
There could be voices in this network from before the world got apocalypsed.
Oh, that's creepy. I love that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Oh man, that's giving me like Fallout. You got Fallout vibes. I make a lot of references to Fallout because I'm a huge Fallout nerd. But
Yeah.
that
I
gives
get
me
that,
like is anybody gonna get the reference of say like toilet skeleton? Like just like that environmental storytelling. It's just like they're there. You don't know anything that happened. You just kind of like see bits of it and like what happened before, but you're not really sure how they ended up as a skeleton on the toilet. Or in this particular case, you don't know about that phone call. They're like getting like a lunch meeting set up, and it's just like, what does that have to do with anything? What the hell is sushi? Like, you know, like,
No.
I get that completely. Like, that's actually very much like the Thorian in Mass Effect 2, where it's just like, it's this giant entity that, yes, it interacts with individuals, and yes, you might get surface level data off of it. It might even be willing to let you delve deeper, but like, it is its own thing. It is wholly alien. Like,
Mhm.
you're dealing at best blue-orange morality, if morality is even an applicable concept to this thing.
Yeah.
So, I love that. That's great. I'm down with it.
Very cool.
so there's
I
like,
didn't-
I'll put that down underneath our little Metaswam. Echoes of the old world.
That would be, you know, we've been looking for like other alternatives to being like the guy who knows what happened before everything went kerblooey. I'm gonna add myself another check because I was very careful there. I love you, Red. So,
You're walking in a
um,
minefield, my friend.
but I'm so graceful and good at it. Anyway, but yeah, no, it's the idea that, and I've completely deflated myself. I don't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, continue. My ego got too big and it pushed my brain aside for a moment. and my
Wandering
brain's
through
trying
that minefield, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. I patted myself on the back so hard I broke my arm.
So,
Damn.
so we got secrets, we got volume, we got oath, we got conduits. We can sort of work out the boring stuff, like the sort of what's the word I'm looking for? The finer details of this cult at a later date. Because right now we're
The
just
cult.
like,
Oh, that's what it was.
oh, did you remember?
Yes, my brain connected two neurons and it works now.
Okay, you survived the mind blast. Go ahead.
Yes, rubbing those two remaining neurons together really hard. So the idea of the cult being regionalized might be a thing too. So, like, you might have Mushroom Cult in one place where it's very much an occult kind of entity that the local authorities or the local, like, nation state has to kind of appease, much in the way that, like, in medieval eras, you didn't really, like, choose what religion your state or nation had. You kind of had to negotiate with it, because it's assumed that it has been there before you, it will be there after you, and if you try to wrangle that bad boy in, you're probably just going to end up getting pitchforked into oblivion. But like in other states, it might be fully institutionalized, like sort of the way the U.S. did psyops during the Cold War, and I'm sure it probably still does.
Careful.
Yeah, it's FBI agent, I love you. I've been cool so far.
Thank you for being a proud supporter of the channel, FBI.
Yeah.
We appreciate you every minute that you.
But yeah, like the idea that other places might have institutionalized it fully, so it's not just like a shadowy cult, where it's more like, hey, why is that weirdly robed person wandering through the middle of our halls of authority? Like, oh, no one. They're here because we need them to be. Who's they? And then a knife in the person's back because they were asking too many questions. Like, sorry, I'll get an intern that doesn't ask them any questions next time.
They're a telephone. You gotta just, they're a telegram. Like,
yeah,
they're
like
a living telegraph.
You could have, depending on where you're going, like in some cases, you might have like the Backwater Bumpkin version of the cult, where it's basically literally visible as a cult, where it's okay, so this is a fully religious institution that gains its power through its people. But in other places, they might be fully flexing their military might or their strategic value and been folded into to whatever chain of command there is in that nation state.
True.
Like, you know, again, it could be court leaders, and much in the way we described that some nation states might be led by mages, others could be led by these people.
I have a question.
Please.
Yes.
So, since this was spawned from the word secret,
Yeah.
is it widely known or even known at all outside the cult that the dust contains a neural network?
Probably
man.
not. It's probably a best. It's probably one of those like best kept secret type things. It's just like if somebody
Yeah.
were to find out about that, they could completely sabotage and undermine their entire way of life, and also their whatever sort of religious vows they may have taken to maintaining the oath.
Okay. So their front is like, we can talk to each other through the dust, and highest echelons of this cult are like, well, actually, everything can talk to everything through the dust.
Yeah.
They might not
Have to
even
know what to offer.
They might not even have like the average person in this setting is very much post-apocalyptic surf level, like survival sustenance. I'd assume even in like the big nation state cities, it's probably not. We're still probably rocking like medieval to like slightly past medieval, but still not modern levels of tech for sure.
Yeah, it's like science fiction. So there is sort of like technology, like guns wandering around and that sort of thing. Because it's not really hard to make a gun, especially
Right. But nobody's going out to buy iPhone whatever version this would be in the post-apocalypse era.
Phones and basic technology would not work in the same way.
And as a result, ignorance would be rampant. The average person, even for things as obvious as magic, which again, the tethered are not a discrete aspect of society. Like, tethered get obvious after a couple of years of wielding their power. Some guy who can turn everyone to glass within 50 meters. The glazier is not going to be like, oh, just a normal person who walks down the street. This is a person who's probably going to be slowly turning into glass. They might hover. They might speak with 1,000 voices, none of which are their own. Who knows? Get as freaky as you want. But even that, the average populace knows very little about, beyond what their local powers would tell them. Except that they exist and they're dangerous. Yeah. Dust is probably even more mysterious because it's more subtle and overt, and also politically powerful for many people, and financially powerful for a lot of people to protect.
Okay.
Kat, just looping back on your question, like how is it kept a secret? If it is the best kept secret, maybe that's a part of the oath. And maybe within the neural network, if anyone starts to go against that, then that's where you see like really potent arcs of magic, which is the network lashing out saying, no, you can't reveal what this is.
Oh, so
Like,
you're saying that
if-
the network itself would retaliate if you were to spread the secret?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a lot of implication. That is definitely the cyanide pill in the tooth type stuff.
What if
I do.
I like that. Yeah.
that's why nulls are tranquil?
Yes.
What if the
Yeah.
average person's reaction to finding this out is, I gotta tell everybody? Because of course that's what the average person's reaction would be to this kind of a terrifying thing. Would
Yeah.
be, oh my god, this blows my mind. To which the network is like, yeah, no, sorry, we're gonna have to take that mind from you. You can't use it safely. Bye.
It's ours now.
Yeah,
Yeah. Can't be trust.
So
maybe that's the reason why some nulls maintain their personality. They can keep the secret.
if you, so you're saying if you were to get rid of the secret, that would lead to an arcane lobotomy.
Yeah, exactly. If you're the sort of person that the second that the network is like, okay, this person is so steeped in dust, they've now entered into the higher state of consciousness to skim those surface level thoughts, to realize what's going on.
And then that's that mysterious board of shadowy figures that they kind of listen to your thoughts, and they're just like, if this guy's thinking about telling a secret, we're gonna keep an eye on him, or an ear on him, or a cool brain thing on him in this particular case. Keep conscious tabs of him. If this person goes around spreading the secret, we're gonna sort of sever his line, and he's gonna be nothing but a dust bunny.
Someone earlier mentioned the word when we were looking for a word to describe the network. Stentonian, I think is what it was.
Stentonian.
Yeah, and
That's
so
a $3 word.
yeah, so it is, and here's the funny thing: the word means speaker. It specifically applies to a person whose voice is loud and clear and can carry. It's literally the word you describe a strong speaker with. So I think it's like Stentonian or something. Like, I'll find the specific word. I know Bond sent it. I'm sure the second she sees this, she'll be like, "Yes, that word," and immediately repost it for me. Please repost it for me, Bond. I have terrible goldfish memory, and I cannot remember it right now.
Stentorian.
Yes, there we go. Maybe that's what those individuals would be called. Like,
Yes.
that would be the entomological word for a null.
So they're
Like a
Stentorians, is what
powerful-
we're going to be calling them.
Yeah, or at least
Stentorians are
the ones
that
that
specifically,
speak.
yeah, the ones that specifically speak with, like, through the networks. Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I wonder why the network doesn't want anybody to know about it.
Because it's a fungus and it's eternal.
I
Yeah.
feel like the obvious, easy answer would be the Men in Black response, which is, a person is smart, people are dumb, stupid, panicky animals. I personally don't believe in that, but I also don't live in a world that's been turned into a magical post-apocalyptic hellscape by my own hubris. So, or my species' own hubris. Not yet, anyway. Working on that.
If I was a collective intelligence made of loads of brains, all of which had been using a dust to act as magical conduits, to the point where some of them had lost the ability to use their conscious minds in their day-to-day business, why wouldn't I want anybody to know about that? I would want everyone to know how cool and powerful I was.
I think it's because of fear of destruction. It's sort of the,
Hmm.
and maybe
Okay.
maybe at some point it would surface if it's confident enough, or maybe sometimes it has surfaced if it was confident enough, and they're just like, oh, let's go on a full-scale attack and just destroy Anti-Noloria, like that.
I have a thought.
India.
Let's
Yes.
hear it.
What if it knows something very, very bad?
Oh.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if it has knowledge inside it that maybe led to the whole everything getting destroyified?
That's a good point. So it knows why the apocalypse happened, is what you're saying.
It knows why the apocalypse happened, and because it can't delete information from itself. It's constantly adding information to itself, but it can't delete any. It knows that it bears the secret that destroyed the world.
And that if someone got a hold of it, they could probably just do it all over again.
And
Yeah.
so to be cautious, no one can be allowed to know what its true nature is.
Yeah.
Why do people
Yeah.
keep secrets? Universally fear.
Yeah.
Whether that's
Yeah.
fear of discovery of plans, fear of discovery of knowledge, fear of harm, but it's always based on fear. That's all of them, actually.
Oh. A Dungeonator put something in the chat that has some interesting implications, and has probably seen the apocalypse happen in other places.
Yes.
Oh,
Yikes.
yeah.
And like Meg said, this is an alien thing, so it may well have information from like hundreds of different planets and like that we don't
Yeah.
even know about.
Yeah.
So
It may have caused one of them and been like, nope, not doing that again.
whoops.
Never
That's not the
has.
button I wanted to push. Though I do question
Yes.
if it has been doing this for more than a hot minute, and it's got all of these different connections.
Yeah.
Are they only human? Are there
Oh
other
wow, that's a really
collections of species? Is that why part of the reason why it's so guarded? It's like, no. I know why your world ended, but I also know why their world ended, and their world ended, and their world ended, and you don't know about any of those, so we're just not focus on this. Don't focus on the other things because it's a bit too big.
That could work.
Elves.
I would not be averse to the idea of abstractly elves existing on other worlds, because that is as far from interacting with this planet as
no elves, damn it, no elves. There's
I
elves in
literally-
everything these days.
I literally
There's
cannot imagine.
Wolverines in it.
Okay, so I do like the idea of this. I do like the
If there
idea
are
of
friends
this.
in it.
What if? So okay.
Yeah.
I like the idea of things that are not human being a part of this. That's fair, especially since this is something that's alien, and it'd be very presumptuous to assume that we're the only things out there in space. I'm going to put that out there. So fair, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm all on board with that. I'm a sci-fi writer. I have to be, or else I'm have a very,
Yes.
very lonely universe. I'm not about that because that makes very boring space opera. But don't at me, Expanse.
Or does it? Yeah, I was gonna say or
yeah,
does it?
exactly. But so here's the idea. What if it's one? I'm just going to put this in a pin. We don't go into any details whatsoever about any of those other species that exist out
Yep.
there. They are abstract.
Yep.
We literally read them as a giant sensor bar. This is knowledge man was not meant to know. And if man ever does know, then their brain either explodes or they literally just don't have the words to comprehend it because we're living at a medieval level, or approximately, depending on where you are, level of understanding and science and literacy and ignorance, vaguely speaking. Good luck describing it as anything but, oh my god, I saw something that's probably going to get me thrown into the town square and set on fire on a stick. So I'm not saying a word.
You know, you
two.
said that. Who said that? Meg, was it you that suggested that other species had been connected with this at one point?
Yeah.
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 What about awakened animals?
Bunnies.
Bunnies. Literal
Actual
dust
dust bunnies.
Literal dust bunnies.
That's
I
possible.
mean,
It could use animals not as like, because animals aren't sapient. You know, they're not aware of their existence. They know they're alive, but they're not aware of their existence. So maybe they use animals as like storage networks.
I mean, you know, what is sapiency but complexity, right? Like,
Yeah.
you add more data into a system and eventually it sort of just becomes aware, is kind of the theory, which is why we're discovering that so many animals have a variation of sapiency that humans don't recognize, but it's still there. Octopi solve math, and they can break out of things, and they express emotions.
Dolphins. Get
Dolphins.
high.
Yep, dolphins, gorillas.
Dolphins do a lot of horrible
whales.
things that all humans also do, so I won't go into detail.
I
about
mean,
that.
yeah, like
Getting
every
high is fine.
species, generally speaking, sapiency does not come with a code of ethics. Seems to be the takeaway of the biology.
This
Yeah.
is true.
So long,
Um,
thanks for all the fish.
So what if the idea is, oh god. So I'm going to take this to its final terrifying logical conclusion.
And
So
after,
it's-
after this point, we will go on break because we are running a little bit over the first hour segment. But this is some good thinking. This is some good world building. This is
Very
exactly
fair.
what I love to see on the show.
Same. What if you said that it's seen other worlds and other apocalypses brought on by this
Mhm.
knowledge? What if every world it has interacted with has suffered this apocalypse? No exceptions. That's why these aliens are in this thing. It's all that's left of them.
yeah. Yeah.
That
I
this
like
thing
that.
is the legacy of those other things.
And it refers to those
Ooh.
apocalypses as the inevitable.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
literally part of its life cycle. It is
Yeah.
the final stage life cycle of a living species.
Oh Oh gosh, yeah, I like that.
That's
like
great.
that.
I know it's super sad bummer, but also kind
No.
of cool.
It's very sweet and sad that it's desperately trying to avoid it this time. Like this
Yeah.
time, it's not going to be destroyed.
Yeah,
It kind of
Yeah.
loops back to what I was thinking of desperately wanting to believe that it's a force for good, and
Yeah.
it is, but there's some inevitable destiny of destruction that haunts it anyway.
yeah.
Oh, definitely. Like
I like
maybe all
that.
of these other apocalypses is it gathering data, and if you could watch its thought process, it's okay, cool. I've got a sample size of 700.
Yeah.
700. like like
Some Doctor
this is how many
Strange.
times it's happened. And maybe the connection to animals, looping back to that idea,
Mhm.
is that the animals aren't necessarily like a direct link to that neural network, but it helps gauge the conditions, because animals can still feel hot, cold, and all of these other things. So maybe it's secondary data that it's processing to
Environmental
say
controls.
on this planet, these were the planet settings leading up to X event. On this planet, it was like this. On this planet, and it's gathering all these different data sources, going, what is the ideal state to survive this event?
That's really
And that's
cool.
why it keeps reaching out, and it taps into animals and not just sentient beings.
Final thing, maybe that's the reason the tether exists, because it's a last-minute ploy by this thing. Be like, fine, fuck it. We're just going to give crazy amounts of power to some individuals and try to upset the balance. We can't do it on a societal level, but individuals might be able to do it. That's my last word, so we don't go forever. But yes.
No,
Yes.
Cat sounded like she had a thought, so let's
Yes.
Oh
hear
no, I
that
was
now.
gasping because you said a naughty word.
What naughty
I'm
word
good
did you
to go
say?
on break.
Oh yeah, it's fair. I did. I took one of our two. I'm sorry.
What naughty word did you say? I didn't hear it.
The F word.
Oh, you son of a gun.
There's one left.
Damn it.
Okay.
All right, yeah, we'll use it in the second half, folks.
Dibs.
Dips. All right, fine.
The F
folks,
crowd.
Timer on this one?
folks, stick around. We're gonna take like a 5 to 10 minute break. In the meantime, please send us your prompts, because on the second half of the show, we will be taking prompts from the audience. We will run with those. Those prompts can be related to these things that we have talked about, or they could be completely unrelated. Be as chaotic as you want. But folks, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody, and we are back. I'm on the wrong tab because I am a good stream manager. Let's see here. So, before the break, I asked you folks for prompts, and now it's time for us to go digging through the chat to find them.
Let's see.
Let's see. Can this even count as PG-13 anymore? You've used up and exceeded your one F-bomb. Yes, it is still technically PG-13. I have not said another F-word.
Neris is joking.
Not even really serious about it. I just appreciate the gag. Yeah, you got to callbacks, man. That's comedy. That's like step one of comedy. Callback.
Yeah.
It can't be step one, otherwise what are you calling back to?
Why did that make me laugh so
That's
much?
great, actually.
It had to be step
wow.
2. Make joke. Step 2, callback.
Immediate callback is step 2.
That would be called telling a joke the first time. It's
did
the
the chick-
pre-callback.
Why did the chicken cross the road? and then like you let the audience laugh and you say, no, but seriously, why did the chicken cross the road? And there you go. That's immediately
There
calling
you
back.
go.
Oh God, the anti-joke. Oh, that is
So
this-
Adam Sandler. Holy crap.
Oh my God. Let's see.
Seems people were talking about the music.
I mean, it's good music. It's good music.
Egmont Overture by Beethoven. That cover is specifically by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech. So if you want to check that out,
Incompetech.
Kevin MacLeod makes some good music for absolutely free, and all I got to do is credit him for it. So there you go. There's my live credit. How's that? How's that, Twitch? Stop freaking taking my music down. Let's see.
I just flipped through. I'm not seeing any prompts, sadly. Everyone's just like super vibing about the music.
I'm glad they like the music.
Agreed. 100%. Worst case, we still literally have 4 words we just have not touched.
Mark gave us a prompt before he left earlier, actually.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It says, I know you guys are probably going to talk about Conduit, but I've been thinking about this since I saw the word. You have all this dust-related stuff and technology-related stuff. Conduits should be able to embody the power of the gods, introducing another power equation. Perhaps it's super rare. Have a good show. I can tell it's going to be a good one. And it has been a good one, Mark. Thank you. I know you're not here, but thank you in spirit.
Oh, is it God's time now?
It is time to talk about religion.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, this is So this is an interesting thing, because we've dabbled about this in the past, about, like, the nature of gods, and, like, the supernatural. And obviously, like, there is supernatural elements in this world. There's literal, like, nuclear weapon mages walking around. You can just glass large areas, or put people back in time, or what have you. So, obviously there's supernatural. We never really talked about the presence of gods, or the existence therein. And when we did talk about it, the little bit we did, we were like, would anyone even know the gods before everything went kablooey? So, I'm going to give myself another check. And so, that is an interesting thing. I know we've also dabbled with the idea of, like, different cults all over the place, that religion might be derived from things that exist in the world that are worth worshipping, and maybe perceived as gods. Like, obviously our cult of magic, of the Dust Mind, is clearly a thing. So, it could easily work in other ways too.
So, what you're suggesting is that, so there's definitely no, like, probably no real remnants of the old gods. I feel like, and I don't want to do some stuff too akin to Lovecraft, because we've already sort of touched on that. I think the most Lovecraftian thing we've done is that is the fungal neural network. I think that's very Lovecraft. It's very alien. So old gods, were they like gods in the way that Christianity sees gods, like Hinduism and stuff like that? Maybe polytheism might have been a common theme in these old gods. But, like, it doesn't really matter, right? Or we're talking about current religions that are practiced,
right?
And who are these conduits, and, you know, how are they? Probably like apostles and stuff like that would be another word for conduit in this particular regard. That claim to speak on behalf of the god. So I guess what I'm asking is, let's create a god. Are you gonna help me?
Let's do it. You know, I've always wanted to have a god, so.
My horrible little brain was going back to this neural network and just being like, if we've established that it's taking steps to try to prevent apocalypses, maybe like
lots of apocalypses in the morning. Let's go.
maybe gods are the guise in which it does so. The times in which it does kind of attempt to interfere with the destiny of a planet, it's perceived by the people on that planet as divine and as a god.
Could be. Like, I like the idea maybe this world did have gods in the past, but, like, you know, the apocalypse... Yeah, like the world... This apocalypse seems to have been pretty complete. The only thing it didn't do was kill everybody. But just about everything else it did was pretty complete.
For sure. They got
right.
got.
Yeah, like, literally, it broke the laws of physics, so much so that even in the modern era, science and technology had to be redone from the ground up. And the only way that they work even half the same as they used to was with dust, which is magic. So if you want your microwave to work post everything goes to crap, get a handful of dust and get to shining. But so even magic, everything, I wouldn't be surprised if this apocalypse killed all the gods too. And so maybe there were gods. There just ain't anymore because, it's the empty throne theory. Like, is there a god? Maybe. Is there still a god? That's a better question.
I have another horrible idea.
Let's run with it.
What if the dust eated one of them?
Eat it.
Ooh, what if the dust was one of them before everything went to poop?
What if there's a god in
Ooh, I
there?
like that.
You're saying
be.
that there's a god in the dust.
Yeah, like the sentience of a god got eaten by the dust the same way it eats people's sentiences.
It might have done that on other worlds. If it's consumed entire worlds or what's left of them, like it might have consumed the gods of those worlds too, or the
Maybe
the
there's
gods of this
deities
world.
rolling around in that complex network of thoughts and feelings and emotions and
They're just brain
destinies.
patterns. Yeah. It's like they're literally just like, hey, who are you? Oh, I'm Tom. I ran a bar like before everything went to crap. Who are you? I am Zimthodius, the god of 1,000 points. What do you do now? I do the same shit as Tim.
Love it.
All kind of dust people now. It's really only like one tier. That's it. There's no vertical mobility in that society.
Meg, did you have a thought?
Yeah.
I did have a thought. And feel free to chuck this one out. I'm just thinking, gods as a concept. Maybe it's been relatively new, like within the last, say, dozen to 2 dozen sentient species, there has been the emergence of gods. But maybe the gods showed up not long after the Metaswarm started monitoring each planet. That perhaps the gods are the network's attempts to redirect. Like, okay, cool. So I've used your animals to get a map of what your planet is and all the different variables and the state of the environment. And now these gods are the network's attempt to instate a representative to try and redirect the way these civilizations are going.
Oh.
Oh.
I can see that. So a manipulative aid. So a manipulative aid of sorts.
Like
Yeah.
an ambassador.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Like you were saying earlier, Kat, that the idea of this Metaswarm is that it's trying to help. So maybe in a couple of instances more recently, it's assuming direct control and
I love the
and
Mass Effect
is-
reference. Thank you.
Thank you. But yes, it's assuming direct control and it's instating a representative of its own to say, no, I'm not just subconscious whispers. Here's an actual entity that will convince your feeble one planet mind that there is a greater cause out there. That it's like it tried to do it through the science and then it couldn't reach everyone with the science.
Oh.
Stuff got exploded, and so it's all like his representative because you don't listen to science.
Then
I do-
instead of doing good listening to the representative ambassadors, they just enshrined them as deities and did worship at them.
That can work.
Oh.
Like, I do know one of the things that we talked about
Oh.
at the beginning of the setting is that because this is a low fantasy, one of the things we're
Yeah.
trying to avoid is the
Yeah.
abundance of easily accessible magic, which is one of the reasons why in a lot of settings of D&D or other such things, usually the go-to of we need to fix something is either divine intervention or a wish spell, which of course it would be. It's literally the power to edit reality on the casual if you
Yeah.
just work hard enough, which is pretty scary, the idea that any setting with enough archmages might have like anywhere from 5 to hundreds of people casually editing the timeline at their whims, thanks to the gods and whatever. And that's very difficult to have permanent stakes in. Because then what stops someone from going like, oh, there was an apocalypse. Wish spell. No. And you roll that shit back. And so we're trying to avoid that to a degree. It's the same reason why we're trying to avoid having like overt healing magic, where if you're injured, yeah, you're injured. There is a cure for that. It's called hospital stay and bed rest, and if you're lucky, maybe medicine, assuming that exists in your region, and it's good. And it's not just dudes with leeches, which may actually be what the doctor ordered in that situation. So I do like the idea of like, if there is religion, it is reduced to a degree to cult status, or it is localized. And that could be a very interesting idea. Either that could be even part of, maybe that's part of the cult. That's the reason it's called a cult. Because you have the people who speak to the cult, and they're kind of like the ones that are more readily able to communicate with that ambassador regionally or locally. And then like you get slightly further up, and it's kind of like those old secret societies, like all the myths people had about the Masons before we found out that they were actually just a bunch of dudes who really enjoy smoking and drinking, giving each other funny titles. And yeah, like seriously, why not? That maybe it really is like at the bottom, the cult believers might actually really think that they are worshipping a deity. And then they go up a tier later and they're like, okay, there is some scientific basis for this, and it's steeped in dust. We'll learn more about that at your next tier. Then you go up and up, and sort of like I don't want to say a benevolent, because there's definitely morally gray tones here at the very best, but kind of almost a Scientology cult-like nature of you learn more as you go up, but these guys actually do, in fact, have answers, and they're not just here to ask you to pay their dues. The answers just might not be to the questions you asked.
I really like the idea that just what they're aiming for is to get people to listen, and what they get is worship instead.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like
I think
Yeah.
that takes it from high fantasy deities to a tragic low fantasy illusion.
yeah, and I think humanity
It's like
is
they're not here to be worshipped. That's
Yeah,
not what they want.
they want to spread a word, and instead humanity is sort of just like, because we as humans, it's a very human trait to find find idols of worship, and that's something that's said in the Bible. I don't know if I think it's one of the 10 Commandments, literally, that says do not worship idols or idols or false idols in that regard.
Yeah, idolatry is one of the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, and you know that's we as humans look for something. It's just like a very ingrained in our mind. We look for one thing to fixate upon, and fixating upon an ideology is a significantly more complicated thing than just being said like, oh, this mushroom televangelist is telling us all these really cool things, so we're gonna toss money at him. We're not gonna listen to anything he's saying, but we're just gonna like give him a bunch of money and power and stuff like that, because he has a lot of influence. And instead of listening to the message, they're using it as a ways to control people.
So God literally arrived on this planet. It landed in the boonies, and the boonies insisted that it have a private jet in its own mansion and refused to listen to it. I actually love this. Forced televangelistic nature. Like, hey, I want to make some meaningful changes and maybe help you guys improve your society so you don't, annihilate yourselves in what would seem like a long time for you, but is a cosmic blink of my eye. And they're like, oh, dude, you know what? This guy should totally get a church. No, God, no, don't, please. Me, no.
No, please, you don't understand. Okay, television, PBS, baby.
Yeah.
30 minutes later, just sitting on a giant throne carved out of ivory made of partially human skulls and stone, and thousands of worshippers in front of him.
They didn't listen, but I'm living a great life, so I don't know if I care that much.
What if it's trapped?
It could be trapped, yeah.
Like literally a chained god.
Chain god.
So maybe it's physical. So that's how it can communicate with us. It's trying to communicate with us through the dust, and what it gets is dust bunnies who might hear whispers, which can be passed for madness, isn't reliable means of communication, or nulls who either can't keep the secret and their brain goes, or the the nulls that might actually be able to keep the secret, but they're just one individual person. You can't make much of an influence as a human on a society with one person in this setting. But maybe they're like, oh, what if we sculpt an avatar of this network? And literally just like out of whole cloth, like the old Abrahamic faiths made an avatar out of mud or biological life and landed it there. And it's like, hi, I am clearly not human. Maybe you'll take me more seriously. And the response to the local community was, cool, that's awesome. That's our God. Well, I'm not God. I'd prefer not to be. I'm just here to talk. And
It's
they're like,
the
no,
mud
you're
man.
yeah, you're definitely God. You're going to come with us to our church where we will keep you safe from everyone else. And they're like, oh, but I need to talk to everyone else. Nope, no, you don't, Chains. Let's go. We're going to keep you safe. It's for your own good. Just trust us.
Or they would
And
think it's a
then, you know,
monster. Or they would
Yeah.
just try to think it's a
Yeah.
monster and try to kill it. You know, like,
Yeah.
that's very human.
And like, this
It
is
could-
not a literal deity. It has relatively, like, it has probably some superhuman abilities, but not like it's
Yeah.
an ambassador. Like,
Yeah, this is literally an extraterrestrial, like, or like a large monster equivalent in D&D. Like, it's big. It's probably got paracausal abilities of some kind or magic, probably raw magic, since this thing's speaking for solid magic,
Yeah.
or the magic network. And so, yeah, no, it probably does. But it's also in a world surrounded by people who can wield magic like a cudgel, and people who can suppress magic like a blanket, and then people who will just totally kill you with a knife anyway, even if you have all those cool powers. And it's only dealing with literally millions of humans. So, yeah, no, it literally might be trapped there. A literal church of a captive god.
oh, baby.
Like Church of a Captive God.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a
Yeah.
subsect of them? Like, the Metaswarm cult has, like, different groups, and some just speak directly to the Metaswarm, and then the other ones, like, one particular backward community, the Metaswarm attempted direct physical contact through an avatar, and it just watched the avatar get abducted and chained up, and now it's just sitting in some basement with diviners trying to figure things out from it, and it's like, well, that was a complete waste of time. Let's not do that. So there's only like one or two of these things scattered across the wilds with these crazy cults keeping them caged.
You know, there's a
Yeah.
story that this reminds me of, and it's a little bit weird, so bear with me. So, there is this little town in England, and they'd never seen a Frenchman before, but they knew that, well, because there's been a long, French and English have like had a long history of like hating each other. So this was like 200 or so years ago, and they say this monkey dressed up, a literal monkey. I'm not even exaggerating. You could look up this story. I know this sounds like complete and utter bullshit, but like it's a true story, I swear. I see this monkey, and he's dressed up in a French officer's uniform. Like, he's dressed up in an officer's uniform. I don't know why. I don't know how this came to be. Nobody does. They tried to talk to this monkey, and they've never seen a Frenchman, so they just thought that this was a French person. Like, they thought that this was a French man. It was just in a little suit. And instead of, like, reasoning with the idea, like, this might not be a human like us, the French probably just look like monkeys. That was kind of their train of thought. So, they tried him for conspiracy and being a spy, and they hanged the monkey because they thought he was a French spy. And that's the kind of the vibe I'm getting, but like the opposite with this is
Right.
that they're worshiping this thing that they don't understand, even though it's just like on its surface level it should be like, okay, this makes sense. If it makes sense to people like us, it'd be like, this is obviously some sort of like biblical giant sign, but it's just like, no, this is something that we must protect. We should like tuck this away in a cool cellar and like make sure he can't get
Right.
attacked. But
We have the literal benefit of thousands of years of pop culture to draw on to teach us the lessons that would give us the tools to interact with life forms that are not like us, but these people do not have any of that.
they don't have anything to like relate or like draw parallels to like the way that we do, you know, like because
Yeah.
we can draw parallels to literally freaking anything. I mean, I can
Love
only
to do
imagine
it.
those British
Mm.
people who were like, oh, this is obviously a French. We've never seen a French person before, but we've been told that French people are vile and greasy. So this monkey has to be a Frenchman. Like that. They
Yeah.
had nothing to draw back to. They didn't have like history books or like other people look like this. It's just like this monkey.
They had
vaguely
legends and
resembles-
hearsay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, this monkey vaguely resembles a human. It's bipedal. You know, it's wearing a suit and a hat. It's got to be a Frenchman. No hate on French people, by the way. I don't want my French viewers to get upset. I think I have like 1 or 2 French people. in my entire
Nobody knows
list
what
of-
French even sounds like.
Yeah, it just sounds like gibberish to them. Like they were speaking English. French is a lot more like no, they would have no idea. They have no parallels
No clue.
whatsoever. And there's there's a sport team, and I kid you not, there's a sport team. I don't know if they use the logo anymore. They probably retired it because it's controversial as hell. But
I would imagine.
their logo was a monkey being hanged from a noose. I'm not even kidding. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a
That
little
was a
fraught.
choice.
Yeah,
That was a
that
choice.
didn't age well. I don't know if they still use that. I hope they don't.
I mean, like, I can't pretend I'm surprised. We have sports teams that are literally like derogatory terms for native peoples, and
we still have
likewise,
that.
there's still Sinterklaas and all that fun stuff overseas. There's plenty of instances of that. I'm gonna try to duck us a little bit away from that incredibly fraught topic. That's a live wire even I'm afraid to touch.
Yep, no, let's not go down that route.
And I dropped. I'm not going to go into the explanation. I'm just going to say, like, I dropped Heaven's Gate earlier, and this feels positively on fire by comparison to that one.
Yeah.
Hot topic.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, there is actually a prompt in the chat though.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
all right.
So-
let's get away from this
Yeah.
topic as fast as
Yes.
possible.
T Dungeonator dropped. What about anti-dust cults? Sort of like Dust Amish or Luddite.
Dust.
And
Ooh.
like, and that is a thing. Like, we have talked about it, that the idea of using the idea of using dust only has existed as long as magic has really started appearing, or like
Mhm.
in the way it's used now, because the magic wielders, the tethered and the untethered, kind of redefined society so extremely that the response was basically like, okay, so how do we contain them? How do we control them? How do we use this effectively? And dust was largely viewed as the answer to how do we turn people who have the sort of power that an entire nation might have in this setting into a usable strategic resource. Dust is the means of control or stability. But that doesn't mean that everyone made that assumption. Like, dust is a resource. People might just choose not to use it. I would not be surprised if there's some kingdom somewhere ruled by a tethered who's like, yeah, I don't want that crap anywhere near me. I like being ridiculously powerful and my powers not dampened. Thank you very much.
So when I think Dust Amish, granted the circumstances of the world, they probably wouldn't be. When we think of Amish, we think of like farmers with horses and cows and pigs and that sort of stuff. Just simple people. I don't think they'd be very similar in this world. I think they'd have like parallels. You could draw parallels from them and to them.
Yeah.
I think they would be more like Mennonites. They would use some of the dust and sort of magical stuff out of complete necessity, but they wouldn't like make it a frequent. Like they wouldn't have like dust in their communities. They would go out to use something dust powered, but they wouldn't bring it back or they wouldn't have it in their communities. Which I live in a Mennonite area, and yeah, it's weird because you see Mennonites driving cars, like, and they're just like, oh, Amish people drive cars. I'm like, oh, those are Mennonites. There's a very big difference between the two. Amish only dress in white and black, and Mennonites wear some colors, I believe. But yeah, it comes with the area. I don't see why they wouldn't use dust for some things. I just think they wouldn't want it around because they're afraid that they don't want to create a dust bunny in their community, because a dust bunny in their community is like a leper and they need to kick them out because they're going against the teaching and going against the ways, and they'd probably be more of like a nomadic kind of caravan, I'd imagine.
It could even be like the other word used was Luddite, which I think is another thing too. Like, it doesn't need to be religious. It can be a practical understanding that using dust is not, like, the use of dust is not a free thing. Again, everything in this setting is a give and take. If you want to stabilize magic with dust, you are a conduit for it. And the process of being a conduit of that dust does in fact harm you. It will age you. It will physically injure you. You will suffer complications over time of dust exposure. And so it is entirely possible that some communities simply just go like, yeah, no, we're not going to subject people to that, or we're going to do so minimally for the benefit of our community. We only have like 200 people in this caravan. We can't afford to have like choirs of dust bunnies who will only live half-lives and not possibly survive the process. That's not a thing we can draw on. I like the idea that they could be just all like, or many of them would be like, nomads or smaller communities out of necessity. They literally just don't have the manpower to throw into this very attrition-based method of controlling magic.
Yeah.
Mm.
Meg, do you have an idea?
Yeah. Well, I suppose riffing off of this idea of people who don't use magic, it would sound like they take a very pragmatic approach to the instances where they do interact with it. Do you think that they would have systems or technology? Understanding technology is a variable word here, but do you think that they would have systems set up to make sure that even when they did interact with something that was dust powered or dust influenced, that there was a certain barrier that was between them and the dust? Do you think that would sort of be incorporated into how they moved around the world?
Yeah, I think it would be very much so. In the same way that, we think of ancient peoples, like medieval people, as being like filthy. They go, they didn't have showers or shampoo, but they wash their hands with rose water and stuff like that, and that's become a religious ritual, is to wash your hands with rose water. So I don't see why they wouldn't have something very similar to that, but in more of a grim, dark science fantasy sort of way. Not. I just thought of something off of that. Maybe they melt candle wax on their skin, and then anything that they touched with, they interacted with dust, like any part of their skin, they would have candle wax ran over their skin, and they would peel it off. I feel like that's sort of religious, simple, and I'm sure tallow is something that's easily accessible. There's animals everywhere. And
Yeah.
That's actually a really good idea.
That's fair. Would there be sections of people that didn't use dust that would go one step further? People who would have, say, PPE. So you think about hazmat suits and things like that. Would that be a defining factor of how they moved around the world? That there would be some that would have wax that would cover their hands, and then there would be some that would have like full-on gas masks or something different that they would use to move around the world. That they would say, when we're getting close to a town where dust is prevalent, that all this stuff comes on, and we remain in that state until we leave.
Yeah. See, what that gives me is Tusken Raider vibes. I'm not talking the problematic.
I was about to say the same thing. Thank you.
I'm not talking Tusken Raiders from like
Yeah.
A New Hope. I'm talking about the new ones that they actually gave culture and lore to. The Tusken Raiders were the original inhabitants of Tatooine before.
The ones they respected in the lore, as opposed to the original, which is about as
harmful depiction of native peoples. Yeah, the original depiction is not good, but the newer depiction is actually really interesting. It tells us why they wear those masks and the helmets, because it's part of a religious thing, and they have weapons that they have used. Like their weapons are actually they're ancient, like they're like elephant guns, literally, stuff that they made. They use all these tools because they have religious affiliations.
You all needed any more reasons to watch The Mandalorian?
Yes. Oh, that they do the Tusken Raiders such a good job in the Mandalorian. I mean, even that's a spoiler. Never mind. Mandalorian came out like a year ago, or a year-ish ago.
It's still spoilery enough. I think that's fair. Like, there's also other stuff coming from it. Just go watch it, even if you don't want to support Disney. Like, I'm not going to say the obvious solution to that, but
support Jon Favreau. Support Jon Favreau.
Yes,
he's an excellent
agreed,
writer.
100%.
But I'm getting like, I really like that idea you had, Meg. Like you have this Mennonite-esque group that are just like, they're not as serious about like keeping the taint away from them, the taint of dust rather. And then you have this group that's just like, okay, we're gonna get full hazmat suit. We're gonna be like clearance level 5 on this. We're gonna be like fully geared. Yeah, I like that.
I think it's also important, too, to touch on the fact that there is a distinction between magic and dust. Dust is like magical fallout, in the same way that, like, if magic is the plutonium, this is the effect of the plutonium. So, like, dust itself is probably a part of magic on the greater whole, but for the purpose of people's interaction with it, magic and dust are two totally different things. Dust is the thing you use to control magic. It is not in and of itself magic. And one of the reasons dust is so widely used is because magic can happen anywhere. There's no rhyme or reason to guarantee it. Someone literally could be born. People are basically born into it, or so like fall into it. Some kids are just hanging out on a hill, and the parents are like, "Oh, that's sweet." And the next day, they go to see the kids hanging out on the hill, and they realize one of them is holding their hands up to the sky, and you can see a very thin, translucent line going into the stars. And then suddenly, every tree within a half-mile bursts in flame. Like, that is literally how much control people have over where magic will appear. And different societies might handle it differently. A very dust-phobic community might make the exact same assumption about magic. To be like, if we can't control it with dust, and we refuse to use dust, we also have to condemn or destroy magic on site. Then we might have an inquisitorial or witch hunter society.
If I may?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I think if a society were extremely, understandably suspicious of magic, I think that they would probably hold nulls, even the ones who are gone, in high regard, because they're immune to it and can dampen its effects.
Yeah.
Like, they're sinful because they got this way by interacting with the dust, but now they've ascended into something that can be like a protective barrier against magic.
See, I keep drawing parallels from dust bunnies to lepers, like lepers in biblical times. People don't hate them or like are afraid of them. They pity them because they have committed this sin that is like, obviously you get leprosy through like more, different means, but like they thought that leprosy was bestowed upon sinners, because like it was a punishment by God to these sinners. They could see dust bunnies as pitiful souls. They pity them so much because they've corrupted themselves with this taint, but they are a necessary evil. But they themselves are not going to taint themselves in such a service. So they would hire these dust bunnies. Maybe there would be some disdain and hatred for them. It's a very natural thing to hate things that we don't understand as humans. It's a very difficult thing to get over too, because it's really easy to just give in to hate. That's the whole theme of Star Wars. But yeah.
If you have two communities in a place and they are both competing for the same resources and they are both in a space and they operate and behave on different cultural registers or even similar cultural registers from different backgrounds, there will inevitably be a degree of prejudice between them. Even on a positive hope, that will be because they are transcending that prejudice. But historically, two separate communities, and I don't mean ethnic, I don't mean racial, I mean communities. You literally get people who are straight up literally the exact same lineage of people, and they will invent reasons to hate each other if they codify themselves into separate groups, because that is tribal nature. So the idea of if you have in the cases of the tethered, who are visibly and reasonably feared and fearful entities, because of course, again, like terrifying, horrible magic potential, and the dust bunnies, who, depending on what you're talking about, folks that are visibly showing injury or damage from using dust, or becoming nulls, where they literally just completely change who they are. One day they're talking to you normally, and the next day suddenly they're just not there, and it's very much a Game of Thrones Hodor kind of situation.
You really like drawing back to Hodor.
Because Hodor is a lovely character, and I didn't like much of Game of Thrones, but I loved how they handled Hodor, especially towards the end. No spoilers.
I like him in the
yeah, I think a lot of people didn't like him. But the same idea, like, there is a way to immediately go, like, that person can be othered. That is a way that it can be expressed. There's other ways of dealing with it, too, beyond, like, a personal, like, oh, they're in this community. You can just literally go around them. Like, you mentioned how they travel. There might be caravans that are just like, we refuse to go into these regions because we know these 3 cities are major hubs for magic or dust. We don't want to be within a 10-mile radius of them. We don't trade with them. That whole region is a red zone to us, as far as we're concerned. So
we are nearing time. So do we have any closing thoughts before we move to the credit area?
Can these people move around in a tiny secret locomotive?
We did mention that. You know, we could potentially have, like, the rediscovery of, like, some Steam level tech. That might even be the way some of them survive. We mentioned, like, caravans.
So these people are like actual pioneers. So they've literally reinvented technology because they refuse to use dust. They refuse to use magic. So they've just like, screw it. Here's the combustion engine again.
Yeah.
we're
It's
starting
literally
at
the
square one.
It's the mortal engine's method of survival. When everything around you is terrifying, put wheels on it and ride away.
So this is like Mad Max, but it's like a train.
I love that.
I love that too.
That's very cool. Thank you so much, Kat. That's wonderful.
Yes, the
I just
tiny
really
locomotive
didn't
is
want a
canon.
locomotive to go unaddressed.
Of course, of course.
I didn't want us to forget about the choo-choo train. So.
Of course not.
I'm totally getting like images for me of. Did anyone see the movie Steam Boy? It was done like a couple of years back. If you haven't, just like go take a look at some of the art. It's beautiful.
Steam Boy.
But Steam Boy. It had Patrick Stewart in it. Fun fact. And if you needed any other reason to watch it, it has Patrick Stewart.
I love Patrick Stewart.
Everyone loves Patrick Stewart. But yeah, no. In it, they use steam locomotives in many different ways. Like the kid, literally, one of the main characters makes a mono-wheel steam cycle. Another one makes a trackless locomotive, which we've had those. They're called tractors. That's where the term tractor comes from. It is a trackless locomotive. And they just turned it into a weapon. But yeah, no, it's a tractor. Like, you could easily have, like, communities that make caravans that, as opposed to being pulled by teams of oxen, are pulled by these massive off-rail locomotives. They're designed to go across whatever region they're in.
So this is definitely done by the studio that did Akira. I'm looking at the art stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, it's exactly the same artist.
Okay,
Yes,
I
it's the
figured
same
so.
artist.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah, same team.
Well, that's cool. That's a recommendation for folks. Check that out. I love Ghibli and Akira-esque stuff because, God, the animation in both of those from both of those studios is just
Gorgeous.
yeah, amazing. So, folks, we are at 10 o'clock exactly. Thank you for coming to the show. I appreciate you sticking around. I literally wouldn't. The show wouldn't be possible without the viewership, and I would like to thank my lovely guest. If you folks would like to reintroduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about yourself, since we are at the end and there's probably some new people tuned in. So, Kat, if you would.
Hi, my name is Kat. I am the host king of the podcast Sword of Symphonies, where my good, cool friends playtest the game that I made, and I love them very much. I am also the writer of the Lumen game Blazing Hymn, and I am going to be the choir master of an upcoming actual play podcast, in which angels have come to massacre humanity, and we need to use the power of music to destroy them and punch them a lot. And that is funding on Kickstarter right now, because it is an ambitious AP where we will be paying everybody. So you can look up Roar to Heaven, and I would appreciate your support.
Omni, could you post the link to Roar to Heaven in the chat if you got him?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I
I'll
would
go
love
grab
it if you would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, by all
absolutely.
means. Yeah, feel free to dunk your links into the chat too. Like, we are all about letting you folks promo on this. Thank you for being here.
Yay! I had fun.
I'm glad you had fun. And
Same.
I'm very
It's
happy.
mutual.
I am more than happy for guests to use this as a platform for their products, because like that's honestly what I want to do. I want this show to be primarily world building, but I also want it to primarily be building people up in the community. You know, because I want to give people a soapbox in essence.
Yeah.
Only fair, you're helping us build our world. I see you got
Yeah,
it.
you're helping us build our stuff. So like
Yeah.
all we can ask is we can build your stuff too.
I liked the part with the choo-choo train.
Yes, the last 5 minutes of this. I like the last 5 minutes. The rest of it was okay, I guess.
We made God, but tiny locomotives, guys. Tiny locomotives.
Tiny secret locomotives.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Megs, what about you?
Yeah, Meg,
What-
let's hear about you.
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah. So on that note of tiny secret locomotives, which is totally not a project that I'm working on at all. My name's Megan. I'm a TTRPG player and a GM, using my Bachelor of Games Design to jump from into RPGs and find some cool and interesting things.
Hell yeah. And Omni, go ahead and reintroduce yourself. Kat, are you still losing it over there?
Dying.
All right. I'll make it quick.
Choo-choos.
They're so good. They're so pure and proper. I love it. All right, so
Secret.
that's a
for you
callback.
folks-
That was a callback, folks. That's Comedy 101. That was a callback to the very
Yes.
beginning of the session.
So for those of you guys who are out there, hi, I am the last Omnitech, your favorite robot American, and I have been working on my tabletop role-playing game setting legacy storytelling in the world of tomorrow for 15 plus years solo. And I am finally getting to the end of the process. I'm currently working on a demo packet, which I'll be releasing for free or pay what you want by hopefully the end of this year. Life has been very difficult lately, and I've been struggling to get that done, but we're almost there, guys. I promise. We're on the way. We're like half. I'm literally publishing it day by day. I'm hoping to release the full core book next year at some point. And I also co-host this show. I co-host the Chip Off the Block show, which happens on Wednesdays, same time slot, where we recoup what happened here on this stream and on the midnight stream that happens afterward. And also, I'm working on playing in DM Studios games on their Saturday block. I play in Bebop and the Big Easy, run by Red, my co-host and handsome fellow here, as well as also the COVID Syndicate game that they run there as Ashwell Brandt, the wisecracking rogue. So you'll see me all over the place. I'm planning on doing a lot more games and storytelling over time. And hey, look me up on Twitter. You'll spot me around. And eventually my own Twitch stream again when I finally finish this game enough to responsibly be able to stream again on my own channel.
Unlike Omni, I didn't write an entire system. So we had this cool crackpot idea for Writer's Block. We literally had it after a session on Derek's channel, and it's taken off. I mean, people really love this. I've had Kat and Meg. They were some of the first people to reach out to me, and I was just like, hell yes, I would love to have you on the show. And the reception for this has just been like mind-boggling. I can't even process it. I'll probably start crying like a month later, be like, cool show, I've done a great job. and I wouldn't be doing a great job if it weren't for my amazing guest and my amazing co-host. Like nobody, let's be real, nobody wants to just sit and listen to me talk about world building by myself. It's a lot more fun when you have a lot of creative and fun minds to collaborate with. But enough gushing. I'm at VA Redemption on Twitter. I post all sorts of things, mostly links to this cool show and the Wednesday show, of course. I just finished the beta read of a book probably going to be coming out. I'll probably release the beta read in January. But besides that, I'm on coffee too. So if you like the sound of my voice, probably not right now though, because my voice is getting kind of worn out from talking for 2 hours, especially about tiny locomotives.
Secret one.
Tiny locomotives. You're right.
I'm also a
Pivotal.
writer. So I'm for hire as well. I have decent enough rates, and yeah. No last minute Christmas present though. It's way too late to hire me for any of that kind of stuff. But again, thank you all so very much, folks, for checking us out each and every week. And we will have new guests on next week. Big thing. I'm going to say this now. Our next show is going to start at noon. I know, 8 hours before the regular start time, but it's because I have a bunch of the guests that I have are from the UK and from Ireland. I don't want to piss Neil off. Oh yeah, Meg is wearing a Dublin shirt. There you go. And I think I saw you with a Guinness mug too, didn't I? Respect.
There you go.
I love that mug. But yes, thank each and all of you very, very much for coming and spending your Thursday evenings with me and all these fine guests. So I bid you farewell and good night.